And the Citadel GrayLine is back on for a fall edition, a fall 2021 edition of the program that covers all things Citadel Bulldogs. Hello, I'm Jon Rawl. Welcome into the show that now is entering its 13th year on the calendar, at least, of covering all things Citadel Bulldogs. And I'm joined here each week by Jeff Hartsell. Jeff is with the Charleston Post and Courier. On today's program, as we get y'all back into football mode for a couple of months, we're going to kind of walk through the roster, talk about the schedule. The schedule begins with a game at Coastal Carolina in just a matter of days. We'll walk through that matchup there in Conway. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guy, the sage of all things Citadel athletics. He is Jeff Hartsell, and he's back on the GrayLine. Hello, Jeff.
John, how are you? Good to see you again.
Jeff, it seems like it's only been a couple of months since we last did this.
That's because it's only been a couple of months since we last did this.
Yeah, it has been. Of course, the Citadel.
Yeah, what a crazy year.
Spring schedule this year, and here we go with a fall schedule, and we got a lot to cover. If you want to get involved with the program, it's very easy to do that. Just if you're watching us on our Facebook page, Citadel GrayLine, feel free to go ahead and ask a question. That's one reason we're going ahead and starting this on the calendar. It says August 25th. We're over a week away from the season actually launching, but we wanted to go ahead. I know people have been a little bit out of touch with what's going on with the COVID kicking back off. So many people are afraid to get out. And Jeff, I know people are going to your website all the time, postandcourier.com, for information, but to kind of take our time and get a nice preview for the entire season, we wanted to go ahead and get this thing launched here today. We are powered in part by IPAC, IPS Packaging and Automation. I'm going to tell you a lot more about Derek Murdoch's company as we go through today's show. Also, we've got the opportunity for all you to get some great swag as BigRedPalmetto.store back on, and we'll have a Knob Knowledge Trivia question before we get out of here today. Jeff, we sent you one of those as a great thank you. Did you ever have a chance to cash that bad boy in? Look at there. Wow, a hat? That is cool.
Yes. My daughter wanted, I don't know which way to move it.
No,
my daughter wanted a hat.
Okay.
And of course, this guy, Spike, he's still around, but he's also been joined by a buddy.
Yeah.
With the new branding they have at the Citadel. But she wanted a hat, and this is the one we picked out for her.
I didn't even know those were on there. How about that? You know, maybe we'll get Jeff to kind of like those recruits to put on that hat before the show's over today. But we'll tell you more about that and get you a chance to load up with your own big red Palmetto.store swag. Jeff, let's kind of catch up with you. First of all, thank you for being back on here for, like we said, year number 13 of covering Citadel Bulldog sports. How are you doing? And before we get into the sports stuff, you doing good?
We're doing great, mostly working from home these days. The family is all safe and healthy, and we've managed to avoid the COVID so far. We all got our shots and try to be careful as we can. So hopefully the Citadel can get through this season without forfeiting a game now, not just missing a game. If you can't play because of COVID, you have to forfeit this year, according to the Southern Conference. So let's hope we can all get through this season safe and healthy and have a little bit of fun anyway.
That's right. As for me and my family, Jeff, just to show you how crazy the world is, one of the Citadel's biggest fans, my son, 11-year-old Knowlton, just found out Tuesday he was COVID positive. So we wish him all the best with this. And
he's in our thoughts and prayers for sure.
He told me I texted him before the show started, since he doesn't live with me, and he said he was feeling good today, which is different from earlier days. But he, just like everybody, I would assume half the population now has had this thing, and I haven't had it, thankfully. But boy, what a travesty. And honestly, we want to pay more attention to the people who've really suffered through this, people who've died, frankly. And we all know people who have died or have extended friends or family who've gone through a really tough time of it. So definitely want to keep everybody and never take for granted what we've been given here if you've been able to get through this thing. As of right now, Jeff and I and most of our families, other than my son, have been able to enjoy over the last year and a half. Jeff, all right, let's get into the nuts and bolts. What is the latest out of Brent Thompson's football team?
Well, of course, as you might have heard, Citadel practice is off limits this year. I call it camp lockdown. No non-essential personnel are allowed at practice. So I have not seen them practice one time this year, which is very unusual. I'm usually make it out to scrimmages and practices and see how things are going, but I have not seen them practice this year. So when they play, when they tee it up at Coastal next week, that'll be the first time I've seen them in action. But it sounds like things are going well over there. If you we'll just start off with some injuries and stuff. You might remember Alex Ramsey, the All-American from VMI, who transferred to the Citadel a couple of years ago. Well, he opted out of the COVID season and came back this year. He won an appeal to the NCAA to be able to play this year as a graduate student at the Citadel, and by all accounts was doing well in practice, and then tore his ACL during a scrimmage last week. So Alex, he transferred to the Citadel 2 years ago and still has not taken a snap for the Bulldogs and won't this year. So that was a bit of bad news to start camp. But everywhere else seems to be progressing nicely. The Citadel has a bunch of players back who did not play last spring, including B-back Logan Billings. You might have heard about his story. His grandparents died of COVID last summer, so he took the year off. He went to school virtually, but he did not play football. Returned to campus in the spring, but did not play the spring season. Now he's back, and by all accounts is doing really well. He's lost some weight, increased his speed, and of course he's determined to play well to honor his grandparents.
Yeah, and Jeff, you just recently penned one heck of an article at postandcourier.com about the Billings family and their tragedy, and that's just another example of what we were just talking about, how COVID has affected all of us in so many different ways, some not as much, and in the case of the Billings family, very much so, so much so that Logan ended up dropping out of the Citadel football program for a time.
He did, and of course he was really close with his grandparents, and of course that was a devastating blow to the entire family. Of course his grandparents, they were elderly, but they had no underlying conditions according to Logan's mother. So it was very much of a shock and a very sad story when they were struck by COVID. And it's affected other players as well. There's another player who opted out last season so he could go home and take care of his daughter, because the people who were watching his daughter got COVID and could not take care of her. So it's affected the team in many ways, aside from, quarantine and contact tracing and all that kind of thing. The latest info I have is that about 70% of the players have received their vaccination, and they're working to increase that number every day. Hopefully it can get a little higher. 85% is the number most teams seem to be aiming for. And of course you have schools like Ole Miss who are at 100%. So congratulations to them for taking care of each other and trying to take care of their season as well.
All right, Jeff, let's go through the schedule in a minute. But before we do that, you also, speaking of great Jeff Hartsell, postings at postandcourier.com, and if you're lucky enough to live in the Low Country or in other sections of South Carolina, you might actually have a chance to pick up a hard copy of the Post and Courier. One of the new faces on Brent Thompson's team is a guy who's a new face, but in some ways is kind of an old face. It's a military veteran that's part of this football team. Tell me more about that.
He's not a veteran. He's active duty. He's
actually
in the Marines. He's in the Marines right now. His name is Elijah Bass. He's a sergeant in the Marines. And I can't remember the exact name of the program off the top of my head. But
MESEP.
He was
Is it MESEP?
MESEP, exactly. He was chosen for that prestigious program for enlisted Marines to go to college, earn their bachelor's degree, and when they come out with their degree, they can commission as an officer. So he was chosen for that program. So he's going to the school at the Citadel and also wanted to play football. So he's walked on to the football team. He's an interesting story. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds. And over the summer, strength coach Donnell Boucher he likes to post some of their speed charts, tracking how the guys are doing and increasing their speed. And Elijah Bass's name started showing up at the top of his speed charts. And of course, I had never heard of him. And, most Citadel fans probably had not. But come to find out his story as being a sergeant in the Marines, he was posted at the Pentagon as an assistant to I can't remember the title. It's like the first sergeant of the Marine Corps, like the top enlisted Marine at the Pentagon. And he was an assistant to him. So very well-spoken young man. And he is stuck with it all the way through camp so far. He, according to Brent Thompson, he's struggling a little bit to find his way around the football. He has not played football since 8th grade. He played lacrosse in high school in Virginia because his mother did not want him to play football, but he had always wanted to play. And he followed the story of a Marine at LSU who was in the same program and played on the LSU team as a walk-on. So he's fulfilling a lifelong dream now of playing college football. I think we'll see him on special teams. I'm not sure how much he's a B-back right now, but I'm not sure how much if he'll get carries this season, but I think we'll see him on special teams. He's big and fast.
And again, Jeff just recently penned a fantastic article at postandcourier.com that you can read all about it. And what position again is he?
Is it B-back, fullback,
okay,
in the triple option?
So we're going to see a lot of him.
Well, I don't think we'll see him carry the ball this year unless some guys get hurt.
Okay.
But we'll see him on special. We'll see him on special teams. I think he's big at 6 foot 230, and he's fast.
Gung ho, I like it. IPS Packaging and Automation is a name you can trust, everybody. And since 1976, IPS Packaging has been providing manufacturers and e-commerce companies with the very best packaging products and automation in the industry. They offer a complete line of packaging products from stretch films and 3M tapes to corrugated boxes, strapping, and equipment automation. IPS Packaging and Automation will analyze and streamline your current methods to improve your packaging process. Give them a call, 800-277-7007, to learn more or visit today at ipac.com. IPS Packaging and Automation. Derek Murdoch, Citadel class of 1997, a proud supporter of Citadel Athletics. Thank you once again, IPS Packaging, for being right back here as a sponsor of this all Bulldog show. Again, if you want to ask Jeff a question about any of the members of this roster, if you want to talk to him about the schedule or anything else going on in Citadel Athletics, if you want to talk to him, Jeff, I know you kind of teased a moment ago, but if you want to talk to Jeff about right there what we're looking at on the screen, you can do that. If you've got something to say about the Citadel's new logo package and more, you can call us. We have a Charleston area number, 843-779-8496. You can text that number too, 843-779-8496. Or if you're watching on Facebook right now, you can leave your comments, and we're monitoring it, and we'll be happy to pass along what's going on in Citadel Bulldog world to Jeff Hartsell and see if he can answer it. Because if Jeff Hartsell can't answer it, it can't be answered. All right, Jeff, let's talk about other things with the Nobbies coming in. The football Knobs showed up in, I guess, late July. Have you heard anything about matriculation at the Citadel?
Well, I've talked to Brent Thompson about some of the incoming true freshmen and how they're doing, and I can give you a few names of guys that have made an impression so far. As you might recall, the Citadel had a couple of signees who had committed to Army and Navy, who switched their commitment to the Citadel and ended up signing with the Bulldogs. One of them is a back or a slot back named Jay Graves Billups, and Brent Thompson mentioned his name the other day as a freshman who is doing well and has a chance to get on the field this fall. The Navy commitment is a quarterback named Varney, and you have to excuse me, Farnbula is how I'm pronouncing it right now. I hope I'm right. But he's in a battle with another freshman, Ahmad Green, from right here in South Carolina, for the third-team quarterback job behind Jalen Adams and Derek Hampton, who are the top two quarterbacks. And then we have a cornerback from Goose Creek, Melvin Ravenel, who's 6'3", and also during the summer he popped on the speed charts as well. So I think Melvin has a chance to be a good long cornerback for the Citadel, and he might get on the field this year as well.
Jeff, before we went on the air, I noticed on the athletic website, citadelsports.com, they actually have 5 quarterbacks listed on the roster. And let me walk through who they are, because you just mentioned a few of them yourself. Jalen Adams, the heir apparent, correct? He would be the starting quarterback?
He will be the starting quarterback, yes.
Derek Hampton, Goose Creek's own. You mentioned Ahmad Green out of Bluffton. He is a true freshman, I believe. Varney Farnbula, that's the guy you just mentioned. And then the other guy still listed as a quarterback, he came in a little bit during this spring semester during some of the action from Dutch Fork High School, Grayson Underwood. I think he came in and played not quarterback, but one of the other positions out there. So 5.
He did not. 5 quarterbacks. Grayson did not see the field last spring. He played running back at Dutch Fork because Dutch Fork had a very highly touted quarterback at that time. But he played quarterback at Dutch Fork earlier in his career, coming off a knee injury out of high school. So the pecking order is Jalen Adams, who was the starter last spring, and Derek Hampton was his backup. He'll be the backup again. And then you have the 2 freshmen, Ahmad Green and Varney Farnbula, battling for the 3rd-team quarterback spot. Ahmad Green was a finalist for the Mr. Football Award in South Carolina last season. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ahmad or Varney ends up moving to slot back at some point after the 3rd-team quarterback battle is settled, especially Ahmad Green. I think his skill set really would fit in well at slot back.
Jeff, it just wouldn't be Citadel GrayLine if we didn't get a Hayden Williamson update. What can you tell me about Kubasaki High's own?
I can't tell you too much. Hayden Williamson played his high school ball at Kubasaki High School in Okinawa, Japan, which is where I played my high school football, believe it or not, in another lifetime. So, but he's still on the team, making progress. I think he's playing mostly on special teams and could get on the field as a backup linebacker or a defensive lineman at some point as well.
All right, Jeff. Last year, of course, with the crazy way it was set up with COVID coming, and you had that abbreviated fall season playing mostly FBS teams, followed by the SoCon schedule, other than also – no, they played Eastern Kentucky in the fall last year. How much different is Citadel football this year? Not that we were too focused on what happened in that COVID year. Is it going to be more like it ought to be here this fall?
It's going to be more like it ought to be for sure. Jalen Adams should have been going through spring practice last year after backing up Brandon Rainey during a fall season. Instead, he had to start at quarterback in the spring in games that counted and were on TV and with people in the stands. So he made all his spring practice mistakes in public. So, but that I think will have accelerated his learning curve. And I expect him to be much better this fall at running the offense, reading his option keys, and hopefully much better throwing the ball. He missed Raleigh Webb on several deep throws last year when Raleigh was wide open that could have made a difference in some of those close games they lost. So the Jalen to Raleigh connection has got to get much better this fall than it was in spring. You have a remarkable athlete in Raleigh Webb, a potential weapon, and he needs to be exploited much more this fall than he was last fall and in the spring.
And Raleigh Webb, unlike his old high school teammate Brandon Rainey, still sticking around the Citadel football team. No problem with Brandon. He served his time and went on. I mean, Raleigh Webb, frankly, wouldn't still be part of this program if not for all the rule changes with the NCAA and COVID and things like that. I know you said you haven't had a chance to keep up with the practices and more, watching them in person at least. What was the reason Raleigh Webb gave you for coming back here for his 20th season?
Actually, this is his 6th year at the Citadel, and he just loves to play football. And he's working – I'm not sure if he's working on his 3rd degree or already has his 3rd degree from the Citadel. So he's getting paid essentially to play football and go to school with scholarship money. And that's what he wants to do at this point in his life. And why not, play as long as you can? He's a kid that, 6'3", about 210. He does have some pro football potential, if not in the NFL, at some other level. So I think he maybe wants to pursue that as well after college. And another guy in this pretty much the same boat is All-American linebacker Willie Eubanks III. He's back for his 5th season. So Raleigh and Willie are really the two old men, along with Sergeant Bass, of the Citadel football team. And Willie, we all know he's a great player. He has nothing left to prove on that front, but he missed some time with injury in the spring. So a full season of healthy Willie Eubanks would make a big difference for the Citadel's defense, alongside a young linebacker named Anthony Britton, who really emerged in the spring, made all Southern Conference. So now you have Willie, Anthony Britton, and Marquise Blunt at linebacker, all proven and effective players at that second level of the defense. And I think that's going to make a big difference for the defense. Of course, the main problem area was the secondary last spring with opt-outs and injuries and suspensions. We all remember the bookstore fiasco.
Yeah.
So that should be much better this spring. Chris Beverly is back, all-conference safety, after missing the spring. And they've moved Parrish Gordon, who was a grad transfer from Old Dominion, who's got tons of experience. They've moved him to cornerback to shore up that position. So I think the secondary will be much improved this year as well.
All right. Well, that's Citadel defense. What about special teams, Jeff?
Special teams. We have Citadel has an All-American punter in Matt Campbell, who is back. So that position is no worry, but the field goal kicking is a worry. It was not good last fall and spring with Colby Kentner, and he's got to get much better this fall, especially in some of the close games that the Citadel will end up playing for sure. So that position has got to get better. A sign of hope maybe is, if you recall, Jacob Godick, the fine former kicker at the Citadel who was here before Colby. He struggled his freshman year, but then his last 3 years he was money, including that game-winning kick at Georgia Tech. So hopefully Colby can follow the same path that Jacob Godick laid out before him.
Jeff, what about the coaching staff? Any different changes since the spring on Brent Thompson's staff?
Only one major change. You might remember Bobby Ruff, who's the son of Citadel great Brian Ruff. Bobby played at Charleston Southern before joining the coaching staff at the Citadel. He's moved on to become the defensive coordinator at Easley High School up in the upstate South Carolina after getting married. That's the area Bobby and his wife wanted to live in. So he's moved on to Easley High as the defensive coordinator there. And I don't think they hired from outside to replace him. They were promoted from within. So other than Bobby's departure, not much has changed. Of course, Dominique Allen, you might remember him as the quarterback. He's still on staff as an offensive analyst.
Okay. And is he doing the same thing in the fall that he was doing back in the spring?
He is.
Okay. Dom Allen, good to see him roaming the sidelines at Johnson-Hagan Stadium. We're talking with Jeff Hartsell of the Charleston Post and Courier. This is Citadel GrayLine, and if you are new to what you're tuning in and seeing here today, we're a weekly show during normally football season. Normally football season would be, Labor Day till sometime early December. Last year was a complete upheaval of our normal schedule. But we talk about Citadel football, little Citadel basketball, baseball, other goings-on at the Military College of South Carolina. We've been doing this since 2008. And Jeff Hartsell and yours truly, Jon Rawl, appreciate all you tuning in for this episode, this debut of the 2021 fall edition of Citadel GrayLine. Let's get into the schedule if you want to, Jeff. Let's talk about that opening game. One reason we're doing the show this week is we're not going to do a show next week. We have a Thursday night football game for the season opener. So we normally do the show on Wednesdays. We decided to, because of the chaotic Thursday game being right there next to a normal show day, we decided to go ahead and launch our show early for the 2021 season premiere. So that's why we're doing it today. And then we'll be right back going into that second game on a Wednesday. So a little programming note there. But it's the Citadel at Coastal Carolina. This is scheduled for a 7 o'clock kick from Brooks Stadium in Conway. The Citadel's last time there was one of the best wins in modern times at the Citadel. A nice playoff kick, game-winning kick at the buzzer that sent the Citadel on to a second round of the playoffs. Jeff, Coastal Carolina enters this game, believe it or not, in the top 25 of all of college football.
Boy, a lot has changed since that playoff game a few years ago. Coastal Carolina since then has moved up to FBS level in the Sun Belt Conference. And, of course, last year the Chanticleers emerged as one of the darlings and one of the best stories in college football with their I think they won their first 11 games, maybe 10 games, something like that, before losing in a bowl game. So Jamie Chadwell's team is ranked number 22 in the country, and this game will be the Citadel's money game, if you want to put it that way, for this season. And it's my understanding that the Citadel's going to travel up on game day. It's just 2 hours from Charleston to Conway, so they're going to just get on the bus Thursday morning and head up there, stop and eat on the way, play some football, and then come back to Charleston without even a hotel stay, I think. So they're making about $350,000 for that game, and they'll get to keep most all of it because they're not spending a whole lot of money on this trip. Of course, Coastal should be a heavy favorite as the number 22 team, and they return a dynamic quarterback in Grayson McCall. And, of course, Jamie Chadwell has a history with the Citadel when he was the coach at Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern beat the Citadel 3 straight times during Chadwell's tenure, and he celebrated by bringing out the broom after that third victory. So the broom might be mentioned a few times, I think, at the Citadel next week during practice.
Yes, and Jeff, I just happened to be at that game where the broom was brought out, and I have not forgotten about that. And it's going to be a tough game. Yes, Chadwell is Jeff, this is no bold statement here. This guy's a good coach. How do I know that? He was the coach of the year in all of college football last year, but somehow he still resides in Conway and didn't move on after the offseason. But another real big problem the Citadel's going to have going up against the Coastal Carolina Teal Gamecocks is Chad Staggs, the Lexington Wildcat alumnus, is one heck of a defensive coordinator, and he has a very, very long and proven history of absolutely shutting down the Citadel's option offense.
Well, you said it, John. Chad Staggs is probably the key name in this game because the Citadel has not had much luck in running its triple option offense against Chad Staggs. And I really think that's one of the reasons they've been on camp lockdown this preseason. They don't want any prying eyes watching what they're doing. And maybe they have a few tweaks, a few surprises to try to solve the Chad Staggs riddle next week at Conway.
Going to be a tough task. Again, Coastal Carolina, to their credit, last year with one loss, and that came in their bowl game, and that was in overtime. What an incredible season the Myrtle Beach Birds came up with last year. And then this year, entering the new season, they're in the top 25 in both the coaches and the AP poll. And what a shocker this could be if the Citadel can find a way to win. I hope so. That's what we're rooting for from the good guys in this matchup. But, Jeff, is it a penny pinching deal, in your opinion, why the athletic department is choosing not to even go up there on a Wednesday and get a room?
I haven't had a chance to talk to Brent Thompson about that, but I think it's just it might be a money-saving move, and I think it's also, kind of a business trip mentality. We're going to go up there and play and come home and get ready for Charleston Southern. And I think, Coastal Carolina is like playing South Carolina or Clemson. It's a game the Citadel is not expected to win. So I think they want to get that game, do the best they can, collect their paycheck, and then focus on Charleston Southern and the rest of the season. Charleston Southern is a key game. If they come off a loss to Coastal and lose to Charleston Southern, all of a sudden things are looking pretty grim. If you lose to Coastal and handle your business against Charleston Southern, then you're right where you ought to be heading into the SoCon slate.
All right, let's walk through the schedule for those who haven't checked it out lately. The Citadel again with that opening game at Coastal, home against Charleston Southern, Coach Chadwell's old employer. The Bucks come in for military appreciation. That's also going to be, and this is important for all these classes that kind of got robbed of celebrating homecoming. There's going to be 2 different homecomings at the Citadel this year. On that first game at Johnson-Hagan Stadium, it will be a homecoming for the classes that end in 0 and 5, as they weren't able to celebrate in the normal way in the COVID year. So that's going on that first game, September 11th. That is a mid-afternoon game, by the way, even though it's traditionally the home opener is a nighttime game at Johnson-Hagan. That's an early game, September 11th. The Dogs will be against the Crusaders of North Greenville on September 18th. They will be taking on VMI for the Silver Shako October 2nd. At ETSU in Johnson City, October 9th, the Purple Paladins will be hosting El Cid on October 16th. The Citadel and Western Carolina get together October 23rd. Speaking of COVID, sad news this week, an assistant coach with Western Carolina lost his battle with COVID. So our thoughts there with the Cullowhee-based college there with that assistant coach in his first year, by the way, on the WCU staff. Western Carolina, October 28th or 23rd, rather, and October 30th, the Hall of Fame game at JHS. The Mercer Bears come in for a game. The Dogs will be in Homewood to take on the Sanford Bulldogs November 6th, and then the season kind of winds down in mid-November with games against Wofford and Charleston. That's the final home game, and that's the homecoming that's traditionally held in early November, as the classes that end in 1 and 6 will be having their homecoming that particular weekend. And then the regular season winds down with a game against the Chattanooga Mocs at Finley Stadium in the Scenic City. That's November 20th, that game. They all look like wins to me, Jeff Hartsell.
Well, that's one way to look at it. We should mention the North Greenville game is a substitute game for South Carolina State. The Bulldogs were supposed to start a home-and-home series with SC State this year, but SC State found a money game out in New Mexico. So they're going to play that game, and the Citadel had to find a substitute team, and they're going to play North Greenville. Of course, they played them a couple of years ago up in North Greenville in a game that was supposed to be in Charleston. I believe it was a hurricane that moved that game to North Greenville. So that should be a winnable game. And then you have the SoCon slate, which is going to be tough this year, no question about it. The emergence of VMI, which won the SoCon championship in the spring, has really made the league a lot tougher. VMI is no longer a cakewalk. And of course, with their rivalry against the Citadel, that game was never really a cakewalk for the Citadel, but now VMI has a really good team, a really good quarterback. They have an All-American receiver in Jacob Harris, who is a matchup nightmare, and of course a good coach in Scott Walkenheim. So VMI's emergence has really boosted SoCon football and made it a much tougher league, in my opinion.
And again, if the Keydets can come out like they did last year, they just were not just the Southern Conference champions. They had a wonderful year, and I enjoyed watching VMI's close games. They had, other than the Citadel game, they had some great games worth watching if you ever get a chance to. And again, their first SoCon championship in the spring edition of the Southern Conference this year in about 30-something years. So way to go, Keydets, but you're going down this year when you make your way back to the low country. And that SC State game you mentioned, that was actually supposed to be played in Orangeburg, correct?
I believe that's correct. It was going to be a home and home with going to Orangeburg the first year, and they're still going to do that. The plan is still to have a home and home with SC State. Just put it off a year or maybe two while SC State found a money game, and obviously that's important to keep your program healthy and on solid ground. But they have a good relationship with Buddy Pugh, and I think that series will happen in the future. Just a few words about SoCon teams. Western Carolina has a new coach in Kerwin Bell. You might remember him as the former Florida quarterback.
Yeah.
So I think Western Carolina is going to open it up and throw the ball around a little bit with their new coach. Wofford and Furman both had, by their standards, bad spring seasons. And so they'll be trying to bounce back. Wofford's longtime offensive coordinator, Wade Lang, who was a master of the option under Mike Ayers, he is retired. And Wofford actually hired a co-offensive coordinator from Western Carolina. So I think the evolution of Wofford's offense will continue. They're going to be throwing the ball even more than they have as they move a little bit further away from the triple option. And Wofford traditionally does not take transfers, but this year they took at least 6 graduate transfers that I know of, most of them over 300 pounds. So they really boosted their offensive and defensive lines through the transfer market. So that'll be interesting to watch for Wofford. Furman really struggled on offense last year. Their starting quarterback transferred to Georgia State in the fall, leaving them with basically one quarterback in the spring. And he did not play as well as he has in the past. Furman struggled to run the ball. So fixing the offense is job number one for Clay Hendricks going into Furman's season. Of course, Wofford and Furman were the 2 games that the Citadel did manage to win in the spring.
All right, Jeff, with the news on all things SoCon, and then if you haven't, please give Jeff Hartsell a follow. His way to find him on social media is Jeff_from the PC. And again, if you just happen to be in God's country, you can find the Post and Courier throughout the Low Country, and in select cities in South Carolina, they have the actual printed edition available. And Jeff's great writing in the Post and Courier available for all y'all to check out. Citadel under Brent
John,
Thompson.
let me throw this out there.
Okay.
The Post and Courier has a deal right now.
Oh,
4 months for $4. That'll get you through football season. So there's no reason not to sign up at thepostandcourier.com. 4 months for $4, and then you make your decision after that whether you want to continue your subscription or cancel. But if you're interested in Citadel, Gamecock, Clemson football, high school football in the state, you can't beat that. $4 for 4 months.
and that's every day?
That's a digital subscription.
Oh,
Yes.
digital. Okay, so it doesn't matter where
Yes,
you live.
Right, exactly.
Can you kind of give us, I'm bragging on where you can find the printed edition. When I was in Columbia not long ago, I saw your Columbia edition floating around there. You are in select cities. Tell me the basic rundown of where you can find a printed edition outside of the Low Country.
Boy, that's a good question, and I don't really have an answer. There's on the postandcourier.com website, I think you can find a list of places where you can buy a hard copy of the Post and Courier. Of course, we have bureaus now in Greenville and Spartanburg and Columbia and Myrtle Beach. I'm not sure if you can buy hard copies in all those cities, but of course, digital subscription, as I mentioned, $4 for 4 months, you can get it that way. And they still, I found this out the other day because a Citadel parent was asking me, can you get it in the mail? You can get it in the mail. Of course, it'll be a day or two late, but if you live in Alabama or wherever, Georgia, you can get it in the mail as well.
Awesome news. Very proud of the growth of the Post and Courier. While most newspapers are shutting down or cutting back, the Post
Let me
and
just
Courier,
mention this. We just hit the 20,000 mark in digital subscribers at the Post and Courier. And the conventional wisdom is that when we get to 25,000, that will pay for the newsroom, basically. So, that's a milestone, and we're getting close to that sort of break-even point, if you want to call it, where the newsroom will pay for itself through digital subscriptions, not relying on advertising or anything like that. So that's a good milestone, and we're working hard to get there.
Man, you're making me jealous. I think I'm going to get my hands a little dirty with ink again and get back in the newspaper or the magazine business, of which I've done both for a long time. And again, kudos on the Post and Courier success. But Jeff, I'll know you've arrived when the Post and Courier has a Fair Play South Carolina edition and or an Aner South Carolina edition.
Well, we're working on taking over the whole state, so it might not be long until you can read the Fair Play Post and Courier.
Yeah, Fair Play, right? I mean, you're covering the whole state when you got that little spot right on I-85, right when you cross over the bridge there into South Carolina from Georgia. All right, Jeff, here on the Citadel GrayLine, we are proud to be presented by some great sponsors: IPS Packaging, ipack.com. BigRedPalmetto.store is a fantastic sponsor. You know what? BigRedPalmetto.store has hundreds of great items for you to check out with Citadel logos available for you to be affixed on some of your favorite things, whether it's a t-shirt, as Jeff showed us earlier, great ball caps and more. And they allow us here on the Citadel GrayLine to have some fun each week when we're on here talking Bulldog sports, because Big Red Palmetto Store has Knob Knowledge. And this gives you a chance. If you're the first person to text us the correct answer, you get a $25 gift certificate sent to you, and you can go do all the shopping you want to at BigRedPalmetto.store. I want to thank Richard Blanton for once again coming on, this great Citadel alum, for helping team up with us again as we get ready for this fall edition of the Citadel GrayLine. And again, that's the way you can text your answer. So the question this week on Citadel GrayLine, Jeff, you mentioned the sergeant on the football team. We have a Marine Corps 4-star general that is leading the Citadel with the United States Marine Corps in mind. And Semper Fi to all you Marines out there. I thought it would be appropriate here today to have our Knob Knowledge question be Marine Corps related. And it's not the fact that the Marine Corps is 0-1 against the Citadel. That actually goes back to the Civil War with the Battle of Telephony Creek. No, this is about one of our famous alumni. So, Jeff, and all you out there, Jeff, you're not eligible to win this. I want to know, as part of our Knob Knowledge trivia, what classmate, and that would be Citadel class of 1979, what classmate of General Glenn Walters is also a 4-star Marine Corps general currently on active duty, and frankly got his hands full right now with what's going on in Afghanistan? If you can text me that answer, you'll get a $25 gift certificate. And again, the way to text that in to get it, the first correct guess, 843-779-8496, and you will get $25. And one winner, if you win, you can only win once during this fall run of Citadel GrayLine. Just going to go ahead and put that out there because we got a lot of people, but some people continue to try to get gift certificates after they've already won, but we got a clean slate now that we've entered a new football season. So when you win, if you win, you're not eligible to win again the rest of fall 2021. Again, text your answers, 843-779-8496. Tell me the other 4-star general, United States Marine Corps, currently serving in our nation's armed forces, who is a Citadel class of 1979 member. Jeff, do you know the answer?
I do not, but I believe he's been in the news lately, has he not?
I'm sure he has. He's been in the news before. When you're a 4-star Marine Corps general, you usually show up in the news because it doesn't get any higher in the United States Marine Corps. Okay, Jeff, let's talk about more important stuff from the athletic department. Jeff, it was back in early June that a video came out, and the video comes out, and lo and behold, the fan reaction comes in, and a lot of it was not very kind. So, Jeff, let me go back to a couple of months ago, a video release from the Citadel Athletic Department, just in case you didn't see it, and we'll come back from this short video and get your take on the unveiling of a new identity for Citadel Athletics. All right, there you have it. The new logos of the Bulldogs. And that came out again early June after some sessions went on for a few months. I'm not so sure how many sessions actually happened, only because I signed up for it the day that was announced and I never got one email back from it. Just saying. I'm sure I'm not the only person who is likely sitting here today. Overall, I mean, my personal opinion, I understand why they have new logos in today's visual world we live in, whether it's something you put on a shirt, hat, or if it's something you put out on social media and more. The Citadel's athletic brand needs to stand out. It needs to stand out not just because it's unusual, but it really has to be simplified. And I love Spike. It's a great logo. But in some uses of that logo, it is hard to duplicate. I know I do apparel, I do print and more, and the Spike logo has its problems from a detail standpoint. So the athletic department decided, like a lot of athletic departments do, they go through a rebrand, and in June, these new logos came out. And I kind of took the three different logos and created my own little Photoshop greatest hits here. You have the primary mark, which is the C, and that's based on the Moorish architecture of the Citadel campus, the corners of that block C. The star in the middle. The Citadel logo and script that you see there is inspired by the Chowport era Citadel baseball uniforms. And then I had to kind of darken it out. That bulldog in the background, I didn't want to put too visible. Jeff, that's the one people really got very, very upset about. I got a threat on our Citadel GrayLine page not to ever show that again, or they're going to stop following the page. Kind of a bold threat there. I didn't come up with this stuff. But anyway, that's the logos. Jeff, what have you heard? What kind of reaction did you get on postandcourier.com?
Well, as you might imagine, some Citadel folks don't handle change.
I don't know what you're talking about.
We've seen that over the years. But I think, as you pointed out, it was necessary to do. Over the years, each team had sort of take it upon itself to design their own uniforms and logos and things. So you had kind of a hodgepodge across the athletic department of different logos and symbols and fonts and all that kind of thing. So it had to be made uniform. They had to do something to make it uniform, to have one branding system across the athletic department. You can argue about the aesthetics of what they came up with. I liked the C and the star from the beginning. I thought that was bold, and the star represents, the American flag. You can see it that way. The gold star that Citadel Cadets strive for, and the script that you show there, that's for baseball only.
Oh, is it?
And then, yes. And the Bulldog, as you mentioned, was really the flashpoint that most Citadel fans expressed their opinion about. The Bulldog has grown on me. The collar there is inspired by the Citadel Cadet uniform. And the company that did the redesign, and I can't remember the name of the company right off the top of my head, but I looked at their website. They have a definite style, right, in some of the logos that they've come up, and they've done a lot of work across college athletics. But they have a definite style, and that Bulldog fits in that style of kind of simplified, bold, the kind of big lines that you see, If you compare, I don't know, if you compare it to, can I get this?
Yeah. It would even look better if you put it on your head, Jeff.
Well, I can't.
Well, let me get rid of that
Try
logo
this way.
since you're doing a fashion show here
There
for
you go.
us.
You see how intricate that is. I mean, Spike is great, and I think it's a great logo, but it's very intricate in its design, and that's something that drives up the cost of the different items. And some items, smaller items, it doesn't really show up well. So that's one reason they felt they had to make the change to a more simplified version. But, all our opinions don't really matter. That's what it is now. And Citadel fans, if they love their school and their teams, they'll get behind it.
Very well put. And I know you haven't made it out to campus and seen practices in person, but I think in what limited amount of stuff I've seen, it looks like you're going to see these logos on uniforms here this fall. Coaches perhaps will be wearing some of this stuff. And it's always, I mean, Jeff, I went and splurged at the gift shop the other day online. I didn't go there in person, but I wanted to buy the new logos for possibly putting on my car. So I bought all three different choices they had available through the gift shop. Spent about $35 on stickers. That's kind of high, but oh well.
Well, the big question for me is the C on the football field, and when is that going to get changed? And I'm not sure when that is going to happen. I don't even know if it's happened yet because I haven't been out there. I don't think it's happened yet. That seems to me that would take some time to make that change. But the new scoreboard is going to be ready, the new video board for the first home game. That's just something they've been working on this summer. And so
what's going to be different about that?
It's just going to be, well, it'll work for one thing.
Really?
Sometimes the video board worked, but the scoreboard, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, as far as the stats, and the first downs and that kind of thing. But the video board will be bigger and better, and the whole system should work more efficiently than it has sometimes in the past.
And the athletic department has had a camera showing the progress of that construction of the video board over the last two or 3 months here. So a new arrival. When you go check out the Bulldogs in that home opener, you'll be able to see that one. Jeff, let's also go ahead.
We should mention that the Citadel is back to full capacity this fall after limiting it to about 3,000 fans during the fall and spring. But they have not announced yet if they're going to have a policy on masks. To my knowledge, they haven't announced, or even vaccinations. Some schools like LSU are going to require either a vaccination or a negative COVID test to get into games this fall. That's what LSU has done. And then, of course, you saw the University of Georgia went completely the other way with no restrictions at all. So it's a bit crazy out there for sure.
Yes, it is crazy. That's why you need to give this guy that we're talking to, Jeff Hartsell of the Charleston Post and Courier, follow him on social media. On Facebook, Jeff is available at Citadel Sports, Charleston Post and Courier, or something like that. It's kind of a long address, but that's the way it's been for 100 years. So check it out. Jeff always has the latest info coming out of the Citadel football program and more. And here on the GrayLine, we're happy to show this. Jeff, I know this is not necessarily a new coach for the Citadel, but he is a new coach within the Palmetto State. And courtesy of Channel 4 in Charleston, I'm going to play a quick clip of the new Gamecock football coach, Shane Beamer, as he was in Charleston not long ago for a alumni event. And in the clip here, he talks about the Citadel. So I thought it would be, again, a cool thing to have this guy who was born in Charleston because his daddy was an assistant coach at the Citadel. His dad, of course, the great Frank Beamer, and Frank Beamer working for Bobby Ross back in the 1970s when little Shane was born in the Holy City. But Shane, again, in the Charleston area for a Gamecock event. But he talked about the Citadel, and that caught my eye and my ear. And let's play this brief clip again, courtesy of Channel 4 in the Charleston market.
Have you ever just thought about how crazy of a good staff your dad was on at the Citadel when he was here?
I do. As a matter of fact, he's gonna be here tonight. As a matter of fact, he's coming down here this weekend for kind of a Citadel football reunion from some of the teams that he was on with Coach Bobby Ross. So he's coming down here for that. But absolutely, I was telling somebody the other day, I was in Greenville speaking to our high school coaches here in this state, and was talking to one of them about it. And my dad doesn't have a ton of pictures hanging up in his house in Blacksburg, Virginia, but one of the pictures that he does have hanging up is of that Citadel coaching staff and the amount of fantastic coaches that were on that staff. And it's really cool to hear those stories and to think about, that he got started here. And here I am now standing out here talking tonight as the head coach of South Carolina. But no, I think about it all the time because there's some great coaches on that staff.
Again, courtesy of Channel 4 in Charleston. What a cool little interview of Coach Beamer. He's got his hands full trying to rebuild the Garnet and Black. But, yeah, cool that his daddy Frank still keeps in touch with all those guys that were assistant coaches, and I'm sure a lot of the players on those 1970s football teams.
Yeah, it is. And maybe you can remember better than I who was on that staff besides Frank Beamer and Bobby Ross. Do you?
Ralph Friedgen.
Ralph Friedgen, there you go.
And maybe one or two more that I know went into coaching.
I think maybe Jimmy Laycock might have been on that staff. Of course, Coach Friedgen went on to great success at Georgia Tech and then at Maryland. Mm-hmm. And I believe he lives down here in the Charleston area. So, that was a great staff back in the day.
All right, Jeff, we've got to wrap up. Our time limit is quickly approaching. The government's watching us when we do this show, so we don't want to push the limit here and get arrested because the government hates success at the Citadel, right? They want to see us struggle, and I'm just kidding. Now, we could talk. The problem is, Jeff, we could talk all day, and so we better keep our mouths rested up. We're not going to be here again next week. We'll be back in the week after that, getting you ready for the home opener following the Coastal Carolina game. Jeff, any other last?
Just throw this out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me just throw this out before we go. Citadel volleyball and soccer both starting their seasons. Citadel volleyball is led by Charlisa De Jesus, who worked out this summer with the football team. As a matter of fact,
another story you've got.
Yeah, for 2 months, and the volleyball team, as you recall, had a good season last year, beat College of Charleston for the first time in 31 games, beat the co-regular season champs. They beat both of them, barely missed out on the SoCon tournament, which was only 4 teams due to COVID. So Charlisa is back to lead that team. I think they're going to have a good year. And then a soccer team has got some transfers in that should really boost the progress that they've shown lately as well. So I just wanted to mention that they're starting their seasons as well.
Thank you for doing that, and we will be mentioning what's going on with the other Citadel sports besides football as we continue on with the Citadel GrayLine throughout this fall edition, 2021 edition. Another housekeeping note that we want to throw in, speaking of sports outside of football, congratulations to 1992 member of the Long Gray Line, Chris Lemonis. His Mississippi State Bulldog baseball team won the 2021 College World Series, and this great player who played for both Fred Jordan and Chowport captured MSU's very first national championship in any sport. So a salute to Coach Lemonis.
And also a salute to former Citadel baseball great Chip Cannon, who was just inducted into the Charleston Baseball Hall of Fame. So I'll never forget the home run that Chip hit at Patriots Point one night over the trees, and I think it rolled into the hole on a par 3 hole on the golf course back there. So I think he got a hole-in-one with that home run. It was a long one.
That's great memories. All right, Jeff, we got to answer our knob knowledge question. We do have a correct answer, and a $25 gift certificate is headed to the South Carolina Upstate. We want to congratulate one of the Citadel's most rabid fans. I have seen this guy in about every southern state following his beloved Bulldogs. He's got a whole man cave devoted to the Citadel. From the class of 1990, Chris Maxson is today's Knob Knowledge winner. Congratulations, Chris. The question that Chris correctly answered was, can you name which classmate of General Walters, the current president of the Citadel class of 1979, which one of his fellow classmates, just like General Walters, is a 4-star United States Marine Corps general? And Chris Maxson, Mr. Citadel, correctly guessed Kenneth F. McKenzie Jr., a.k.a. Frank McKenzie, a Birmingham, Alabama native who graduated from the Citadel in 1979 as that other 4-star general. Right now, Frank McKenzie is the commander of the United States Central Command, and that is the area of the world that includes Afghanistan. In the past, he's also served as director of the Joint Staff. But now, Frank McKenzie, the 4-star general, commander of the United States Central Command. Chris Maxson, a $25 gift certificate is headed your way, courtesy of Big Red Palmetto.store. Thank you for watching, and always great to see you at Citadel Stuff, and thank you for being a friend and following this program and being a friend on Facebook. Frankly, for this show, that's where we invite all of you who are watching to please follow us on our Facebook page, and that's right there, Citadel GrayLine. And you can tune in and see this show each week, but Jeff's got his stories he posts from the Post and Courier that he puts on the Citadel GrayLine Facebook page. So we try to make it very easy and simple for you to keep up with all things Citadel blue and white. So that pretty much wraps up this debut show for the fall semester of the Citadel. And again, we'll be off the air, which, well, I guess that would be called furlough. We're going to be on furlough next week, but we'll be right back here the following week just after Labor Day and have the rest of the way. We won't be taking off, and we'll have you all the way through the rest of the football season. Jeff, thank you again for being back on here for your 13th season of Citadel football on Citadel GrayLine.
Thank you, sir, and looking forward to a fun year, and hope everybody stays healthy and safe and we make it through all 11 games.
Yes, and keep it under the speed limit when you truck up US 17 to Brooks Stadium at Coastal Carolina University.
That's good advice.
Yes, because I'm sure you'll be putting a pedal to the metal, as that's definitely understandable. Jeff Hartsell, Jeff _ from the PC is his social media handle. Thank you all again for tuning in. The Citadel GrayLine, a production of CRM Sports. We'll see you in 2 weeks, y'all. Thanks for tuning in.